All right, so I wanted to start by just kind of thinking about nature and nurture, and someone actually asked this question. I don't have a definite answer. We'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to aggressive behavior. But a lot of the behaviors that we're going to talk about will bring up this issue of which is more important, nature versus nurture, and kind of how does each contribute. So I encourage you to kind of think about that. You did that a little bit last week or the week before on your aggression discussion forum. And so keep thinking about that. It may vary depending on the situation as well. So I don't have an answer to this question, but I think it varies situation to situation. So as usual, I broke up your questions into questions about the class structure versus the class content. We've got a couple of questions about the final project. I answered these on the discussion forum as well, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate. So somebody commented that they were having a hard time finding their thesis. And I just want to kind of be clear that your thesis doesn't have to be new or earth-shattering. The goal here is to just explain how the concepts are related. So antisocial personality disorder increases the risk of aggressive behavior. Learned helplessness has negative impact on academics. These are the kinds of theses that you should be having. So just kind of explaining what your topic is and how it's related to the things that you're studying. If you want to check in or aren't sure if you're on the right track, feel free to sign up for a meeting with me. And of course, this week you're going to submit your copies of your articles, and then also submit a document that has kind of your updated thesis. So I'll have an opportunity to give you feedback on that. And relatedly, I expect your topic to continue to change. So what you submitted 2 weeks ago doesn't have to be set in stone. If you decide you don't like it, or if you pick an article this week and you find a better one next week, it's fine to throw it out and come up with another one, switch them out, revise your thesis if you change your mind after you've read the material. This is all part of the process. So I totally expect there to be changes. You don't need to go back and, if you get a new article next week, you don't have to go back to this week's work and change your article. You don't need my approval for those things. That's part of, showing that you're responding to the literature that you find. Now, that being said, if you're totally throwing out your topic and want to do something totally good, probably a good idea to sign up for a meeting with me and check in. There was also a question about the narrated PowerPoint and exactly how you do that. I have posted video instructions in week 15, so you can see it there and kind of review it. I will also accept other video presentation formats. So you need the slides and you need a video. If you want to record it on Screencast-O-Matic, or there's a bunch of other things that help you kind of record your screen and upload the video to Canvas or upload it to YouTube and put on a link, that is fine too. So I will leave that up to you. You need the slides and you need the narration. Just really quick, I will show you what it looks like. And again, I will let you, there is a complete video with a little bit of planning, but I just wanted to show you real quick in PowerPoint. And again, everyone has access to Office 365 for free through the university, so you should have access to PowerPoint. And when you're in PowerPoint, there's a record tab up here. And so you can choose to record from the beginning. And basically what it will do is it will record your narration on each slide. And when you switch slides, it will start recording your narration on that slide. It's really nice because you can pause what you're saying and continue on. If you need to delete your narration for one slide, but not all, you can. So this record tab is what you'll use, and you can record from the beginning or from current tab. You can include a video, you can just include audio. You can export it as a video, or you can just attach the PowerPoint. So it looks a little bit weird when I am on Teams already, but that is an option for you. Okay. So going back to where we were. Okay. So in terms of questions about content, a couple of different things came up. You all had some interesting thoughts and questions. So somebody asked about upstream reciprocity, this idea of pay it forward. And so the idea is that, if you are kind to someone who is down on their luck, then in the future, instead of them returning the favor, they do something nice to someone else who is down on their luck. So somebody asked if kind of these drive-through pay it forward lines, paying for someone's meal, is an example of this. And I'd say, yeah, this is kind of an immediate version. So the example that your textbook gives is a little more delayed, right? Right now, I can help you. And when you are in a place where you can help other people, you'll do that in the future. But I think that is another example of this upstream, right? Instead of paying someone back or repaying their kindness, you're helping someone else out. Somebody also asked about kin selection and step parents. So kin selection is basically comes from evolutionary theory, and it's the idea that we have an evolutionary tendency to help people who have our genes. And so the question is, how does this apply to step parents? And we're not really evolutionarily motivated to save our stepchildren, right? Because if we think about evolutionary theory, it is all about how can we help pass on our genes. And that's why we want to help people who are genetically related to us. And I think that this is really where we get to a limitation of evolutionary theories, because according to evolutionary theory, there's no reason why you would save your stepchildren over some random stranger who's also not related to you. And I assume that that's probably not the case, and you'd be more likely to save your stepchildren. So I think that, this is a significant limitation of evolutionary theory, and it doesn't really account for kind of that emotional connection and in non-kin relationships. So things like friends or even your spouse, you're not biologically related to your spouse, right? But you'd probably be more likely to help them than someone else. So I think that there are certainly limitations to all the theories that we talk about. And I don't think this necessarily, part of the question was about whether you have less empathy for your stepchildren. And I don't necessarily think that evolutionary theory would have a lot to say about emotion, because it's all about passing on your genes. And so that's kind of the motive. Okay, I think that was all the questions about pro-social behavior. There were several questions about aggression. And so I wanted to talk about a couple of them, and then I'll kind of get to the overarching thought. So one question was about whether serotonin is related to aggression and in people with mental health disorders. And so I want to kind of reiterate that the link between serotonin and aggression is not terribly strong. What we know about serotonin is linked to feeling good. So we kind of assume that if we don't have serotonin and we feel bad, we may be more likely to be aggressive. But there's a much more direct link between aggression and testosterone. So the link between aggression and serotonin, there have been some correlational studies that show it, but I would definitely not say that, the reason that we, some mental illnesses have been associated with aggression is because of a lack of serotonin. We don't have that kind of evidence. So I'm going to kind of jump to the last point because it relates to both of the questions about aggression. Like everything we talk about, aggression is not all biological or all nature or all nurture, right? It's a link of between a mix of multiple things. So we have these inner biological causes. This could include low serotonin. It could include high testosterone, things like that. There are also kind of inner causes like hostile attribution bias, that can create more aggression. There's interpersonal things like jealousy, which may cause aggression. There's external factors like the weapons effect. And of course, there are cultural norms like issues with self-control or wounded pride. And so we cannot identify that one specific thing causes aggression because it is probably almost always a combination of things. And so hopefully you thought about this when you did your discussion forum post. And it really highlighted the fact that, okay, well, maybe this person had some kind of biological vulnerability to aggression, but also they were in a situation where somebody was threatening them, or they felt that their honor had been, their pride had been wounded, or they were feeling jealousy. And so the combination of those things may have led to aggression. So there's also multiple questions about instinct theories of aggression. So Darwin and Freud both kind of fall under this category of instinct theories. Darwin basically argued that aggression helps us pass on genes and protect our offspring, get a mate, things like that. So aggression is an adaptive instinct that helps us survive. Freud argued something a little bit different. So he argued that we have this thanatos or death instinct. And basically the way this happens is we have these kind of innate instinctual aggressive urges, and we need to release them in a productive way. If we don't find a productive way to release the aggressive urges, then they become aggression towards other people. So Freud's theory argues that things like venting or catharsis, like releasing that aggressive energy, should help and decrease aggression, which we actually know is not true. So while both of these theories and these instinct theories are historically significant, I want to come back to this idea that there's no one clear cause of aggression. It's more complex than we just have an instinct and that's why we're aggressive. We may have an instinct that's driven by biology, that's exacerbated by this interpersonal situation, that's encouraged by the cultural setup. We can't just say, oh, there's one thing. Oh, somebody's aggressive because they have an instinct. No, they're aggressive because maybe they have an instinct, but also it happens in a cultural context, in an interpersonal context, and so we cannot identify one cause. So I would say that, somebody asked about which one was more right. I think neither one is right based on our current knowledge. It is a potential contributor, but really instinct theories have kind of fallen out of favor, and we tend to focus a lot more on the environmental factors. Someone also asked about Freud having a stepbrother, family something that motivated his theories. That is not something I'd heard of, and I could not find in a quick Google search, but if you can find information, I'd be interested to hear it. Okay, so again, aggression, no one clear cause. In most cases, it's some kind of multitude of factors that kind of all come together to create this perfect storm of aggression. Okay, the last kind of category of questions was interpersonal attraction. And so somebody asked about whether online dating is worse than traditional dating because the rejection rates are higher. And I think that there's kind of a couple of ways that we can think about it. First, we can think about the advantages of online dating. So we've got more potential partners and it's easier to find them. You can have communication before meeting. You can also kind of filter out the type of partner that you want. And of course, the cons are things like your partner, the people on there might not be honest. We might be missing crucial information to make our decisions. And it's clearly not a magical recipe for finding love, right? There are some trials. So I think there are some benefits to online dating. I don't think it's going away. Your discussion forum this week touches on this. So you'll do some more thinking about how this works and how beneficial it is. In terms of rejection, I think that while there are more people to be rejected by in online dating, there are also more people who you might end up being attracted to. And in addition, I think another thing to consider is rejections online by someone you've never met that you don't have a lot of time invested in, that's just looked at your profile briefly, are probably a lot easier to cope with than being rejected by someone in person, even if the extent of your interactions have been that you went on one date with them. You still have kind of more investment than you would if you had just kind of found their profile online. So I think this is up to personal preference in terms of maybe how difficult those rejections are. But in general, I think there are a number of advantages to interpersonal attraction, or sorry, to online dating. And so we'll discuss that more this week. Okay, so that's all. I think I answered all the questions, but if you have more questions or want to sign up for a meeting about your final project, please do not hesitate to sign up for my office hours so that we can discuss. Otherwise, we'll have another Q&A in a couple weeks, but feel free to reach out if you have any other questions.